It's a new day, and it's coming at you fast. With Comcast Business, you'll have what you need to take on every twist and turn, like the flexibility to control multiple Wi-Fi networks from anywhere, a cybersecurity solution to help protect all your connected devices, and the power of the nation's largest gig speed network, all supported by a dedicated team available 24/7. Every day in business is a big day. Comcast Business will keep you ready for what's next. Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
SportsGrid.com. Betting insights and entertainment at your fingertips 24/7 as our team covers the most important topics in sports wagering. Real-time odds, predictive betting models, expert picks, and more. Want the edge? Then get on the grid. SportsGrid.com.
Welcome back. Utah Jazz over on FanDuel up to 7-point favorites tonight against the Los Angeles Clippers, as Kawhi Leonard is being reported of being not only out of this game, but also has potentially suffered some sort of ACL injury, and his status very unclear, I would say, moving forward, no doubt. You heard Chris there with the update. Let's get to ours here at the top of the hour. Here are our headlines that we're watching here on Fantasy Sports today. We have 2 Game 5s tonight in the NBA playoffs. Of course, Utah and LA being one of those. Philadelphia is going to take on Atlanta. They're 6.5-point favorites on FanDuel as well. Game 2 tonight between Montreal and Vegas in the Western Conference Finals. Marlins and Cardinals starting in 15 minutes. So I don't know how I'm going to watch this game while I'm hosting the show. I guess I'll just watch the second half. Hopefully there'll be something to watch. Also 7 afternoon games in baseball today. 8 games tonight in baseball as well. The Arizona Diamondbacks lost again yesterday. They have a 12-game losing streak currently going right now, as they will play in San Francisco. Also, the Washington Wizards have fired their head coach in Scott Brooks, and the New Orleans Pelicans have let go of one of my favorite guys, Stan Van Gundy, former NBA head coach with the Miami Heat, Detroit Pistons, and now with the New Orleans Pelicans. But, of course, the story from last night is the performance of Kevin Durant. Steve Nash, of course, is in the National Basketball Hall of Fame, took over as Nets head coach this year, and simply put, after last night's game, was sort of stunned with the performance of his guy, Kevin Durant.
49 point. I mean, it's ridiculous what he's able to do. I think we know he's capable of nights like this, but to do it tonight, we lose Kai, James obviously is soldiering through, his ailments. We're down bodies, we're wounded. And for him to have the toughness, the mentality, that's what makes him one of the all-time greats. And so this is a performance that, a signature performance, for Kevin, and it was beautiful to watch.
Well, Davis, so much for a plus 350 with the Nets to win the championship. You can't even get half that right now on FanDuel. That's a huge line move, and now with Kawhi out, obviously that's going to change as well. So that was the last shot yesterday, I think, to get good odds on the Nets. We were here. We told you to do it. If you took advantage of it, great. If you lose the bet, don't blame us. That's the way it always works here. If we give you good advice, tell us. If we give you bad advice, just ignore it. Give me some advice on Phil Mickelson here. The U.S. Open starts tomorrow. He's been the story of golf for the last month. He's driving around in his golf cart with the trophy. And the books are in some big trouble if Phil Mickelson ends up winning the U.S. Open, Davis. And the average bettor is just laying it thick on Phil to win this thing this weekend.
Yeah, well, this is why the buildings are so tall in Las Vegas. This is why FanDuel can afford to run out all their cool promos. This is why they can give you the odds boost on the Philadelphia 76ers or the New York Knicks or the Mets or the Yankees, because Phil Mickelson, whose true price to win this event by our friends over at Data Golf is like 480 to 1. He is just getting bet down by the public by like crazy at 50 to 1 at the FanDuel Sportsbook. And so, I thought it was a great story when Phil won the PGA. My bets were dead, but I was there tuned in, watching every shot, cheering Phil along. It was incredible. I do not see it happening for him at the U.S. Open at Torrey Pines. It's a super long golf course. They're playing, the tip from the very tippy tops all the way at the back. The rough is so long. Ian Poulter posted this video yesterday from his practice round showing that his ball about 5 feet off the green was so deep under the rough that he wouldn't have been able to find it without a spotter, that like the rough is like 3-4 inches deep around the green. So it is just going to be, I think par is definitely going to be relative at this event. It would not surprise me to see, a -3 winner. I mean, even an over par winner. We have had U.S. Opens where over par has been a winning score in the past, and just don't think Phil is going to repeat here.
I watched the Golf Channel, I think it was last Thursday, jogging through channels and stuff like that. One of the announcers I made the comment that, and I had said this to you probably a couple of weeks ago, that this PGA Tour season has been the most interesting non-Tiger Woods PGA Tour season maybe in a decade. Do you share that same sentiment here? It seems like there's just all of this buildup for all of these tournaments, and they're delivering on all of the majors this year too.
Yeah, the majors have been good. Right now, the British Open is happening, pending COVID stuff and tests and travel and all of that. So that's great. We have, and the thing is, look, I mean, all due respect to Tiger Woods, back in his day, he was playing against a lot of guys who were not great at golf. Like, I mean, they were great at golf relative to you or I, but now, I mean, the tour is 20 deep of guys who could win any given week, who are all amazing. Victor Hovland, Patrick Cantlay, all these incredible guys who haven't even won a major yet, and they're still competing against Rahm and DJ and Rory. Like, it's just incredible how much talent there is in the sport right now, and the personalities are getting better. Right, this whole Brooks versus Bryson thing. Like, it has been a great PGA season, no doubt.
Yeah, and the personalities, definitely a big part of sports. And with golf, I think that's a big part of it as well. So speaking of which, Skylar Hoke, who's got a great personality, is going to join Davis coming up, give you a preview of the U.S. Open, which begins tomorrow. We'll give you live leaderboards, of course, right here on Sports Grid when we hit the air at noon Eastern. But will Davis move away from Bryson DeChambeau? Could it be Will Zalatoris? Is that who Davis is backing going into the weekend? He's looked really good this PGA Tour season. Stick around. We'll have it for you next.
SportsGrid.com. Betting insights and entertainment at your fingertips 24/7 as our team covers the most important topics in sports wagering. Real-time odds, predictive betting models, expert picks, and more. Want the edge? Then get on the grid. SportsGrid.com.
Let's go shop small. Let's go into town and lose track of time. Let's go grab a bite with double everything. Let's try getting dressed up again to see all the familiar faces.
Hey, how's it going?
Let's go pick up our chat where we left it. Because there's nothing like shopping small. Let's go now. Then let's go again. Let's go shop small with Amex.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Fantasy Sports Today here on Sports Grid. I'm Davis Maddock, joined by my buddy, Skylar Hoke. You can find him on Twitter at SkyhookDFS. We are here to discuss the U.S. Open from a wagering perspective. They are playing at Torrey Pines, a little bit different of a Torrey Pines than you're going to be used to seeing on your TV. They're only playing the South course, which is the longer course, so no rounds on the North Course. And if Ian Poulter's Twitter videos are anything to go by, it looks nasty out there. The rough, super deep. They're playing every course they're playing every hole from as far back as they possibly can. I think this is pretty much going to be Bomber's paradise this week, Skylar.
Oh, I completely agree. The U.S. Open is my favorite week of the entire year because it ultimately is the only one that pretty much ends up being that par is relevant. I love seeing scores over par, even if it's single-digit winners. Like Bryson was able to get to 6 under and be the only one under par last year, and he played prolific. That was what I want to see week in and week out. So to get it for the U.S. Open when the big boys are ready for the big test, yeah, it's my favorite week.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good test. So I think the FanDuel Sportsbook is also telling that with the odds. So John Rahm is the clear favorite, and this is what Data Golf, our projections provider over at Daily Roto, has been telling us for a long time. But just the idea, John Rahm is clearly the best player in the world right now. FanDuel has him posted at plus 950 to win this tournament. Then a huge gap to Bryson at 17-1, Dustin at 17-1. Xander at 17-1, and then Brooks, Rory, Morikawa, Spieth, JT, Finau, Hovland, Cantlay, all in between 18-1 and 25-1. That's 12 guys or 11 guys trading in between 17 and 25-1. I tend to think the U.S. Open basically rewards the true pedigree golfers in the world, and this is definitely backed up with results of this tournament historically. The harder a golf course is, the more your Joaquin Niemans and your Charlie Hoffmans are going to struggle to post, a winning score. So I really think focusing your bets on these top 12 guys is kind of the way to go for this event.
Yeah, and it's definitely not the way I normally structure my bets week in and week out. I'm somebody who normally starts maybe in the 30s, if not the 40s, and then gets into the longer shots. And I'm investing into 2 golfers, in this range. The 2 that stick out to me are the 2 most popular ones right now that are in the Twitter feud. The fight around the world right now of Brooks Koepka and Bryson DeChambeau, the pettiness back and forth. Would they pair them up? Ultimately, it didn't end up coming through for it. But at 18 or 17 for Bryson and 18 for Brooksy. That is a great, I think, odds relative to what they do at the U.S. Open. Of course, 3 out of the last 4 championships have come between that duo. So yeah, investing into 2 of those and hoping some longer shots as we talk come through for top 5s, 10s, top 20s. But yeah, I think you really need to be starting your card with 1, if not 2 golfers below 30-1.
Yeah, I am with you for sure. Now, granted, I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you for sure who is going to win. I think probably the guys, there are 3 guys I want to bet. I want to bet Bryson at 17-1. I want to bet Xander at 17-1. And I think I want to bet Rory at 19-1 as well. Rory, huge dip in form over the last year. Now, he was also the player of the year on the PGA Tour in 2019. And I do think that there is something to this theory, and this is my theory, that Rory did spend, about 6 months trying to bulk up and turn himself into Bryson. Now, that part's not theory. He admitted that was true. He said, look, I saw what Bryson was doing. I saw the way golf was going. I tried to change my body. I tried to change my swing, and it didn't really work for me. And then he won on the PGA Tour about 6 weeks ago, and then hasn't been playing very consistently since then because it's just been a weird schedule. So if you use rolling 50-round averages, which is what a lot of good golf modeling is built off of, Rory's not going to look that strong right now, but I feel like he's kind of coming out of it. And then, what can be said about Bryson? He's already talking about, oh yeah, this is going to be exactly like Winged Foot where I won, but my strength is going to be even better here because the rough is even deeper. And then, Xander, is there a guy who does better versus his baselines at majors than Xander? He might be the best player right now at major championships, even though he has yet to secure a win. He's been very close a bunch of times.
And that's the only caveat when you pair him, where I make my decision with Brooks, is Brooks obviously has gotten over the line 4 times in majors when Xander, he might have more consistent finishes, hasn't finished worse than 6th place in the U.S. Open, which is incredible to say. And he's in his hometown, a San Diego kid, very familiar with Torrey Pines. His best finish ever at the Farmers was this year in January. February. So a lot of things are pointing to Schauffele. So you can't really go wrong. I think it's fractions of strokes between any golfers up here. And you do have to make your stake on who you think is going to come out. And I think the distance is just so important. And that's what all these golfers have.
Yeah. And that is, going to be something that definitely separates this event from, a PGA championship, even Augusta, which plays, Augusta plays strong for bombers, but you have to have such a precise short game that, guys who are long off the tee, but not true bombers, Hideki, Patrick Reed, guys like that they hit the ball well and they gain strokes off the tee, but, they're not bombing 370-yard drives, are certainly able to win and compete there. So I think I am leaning Bryson and Xander. Who are your wagers here at the top of the board?
Yeah, it's going to be Brooks and Bryson for me, 17 and 18 to 1.
Yeah. All right. So, we can't help ourselves, though. We got to take a couple stabs. I mean, who really wants to go into a major championship with 2 bets? Like that's not any fun. No one wants that. So let's get a little bit deeper into the board here. Deeper than 25 to 1. Who are some of the names that are attracting your eye?
Well, each major we've brought up this name, and he has yet to let us down, and it's Will Zalatoris. I mean, from an outright winning perspective, he hasn't came through. A second at the Masters and a 8th at the U.S. Open. He finished 8th at the PGA Championship last time out. He finished 6th at the U.S. Open at Winged Foot. Zalatoris is made for this test of golf, where you par them to death. You get there, you run in a couple of those putts because he's got such a good iron game, long off the tee. He's actually born in California and has openly spoke about how he really thinks his game fits so well. He's available at plus 4,100 on FanDuel Sportsbook, so he is my favorite mid-range bet.
Yeah, I think you are definitely on board with that one. I think another big thing about Zalatoris is he's from the school of simulators, right? He's played these courses on simulators. He's big on the TrackMan. He is going to be. He's going to be a guy who I think understands how to manage the course. I think there's not going to be a lot that surprises him. And in general, you would not think that about a guy as young as Zalatoris was, so young in the PGA Tour, going to be the first time playing the U.S. Open for him and all these things. But I definitely agree with you. Then there is a big drop on the board. When you get to kind of that Matthew Fitzpatrick range, the board really drops off into your 80s, your 90s, your 100 to 1s. I was talking with Colin Drew earlier this week. Tommy Fleetwood used to trade at 30 to 1 to win every major championship. He is now down to 85 to 1. And I know he's not going to win, but I kind of want to take a stab at him anyways. I also like him in some of the T20 markets. Is there anyone deeper down there that you like, for outrights or for T20s?
So I'm going to get real deep for us here. And it's a price that FanDuel has the best in the market. And it's a 290 to 1. Again, we're going to play him in some top 5s, top 10s. And he's available at $8,000 for FanDuel DFS. And it's Johnny Vegas. So Johnny Vegas is coming off of a second place finish last week, a top 10 2 weeks ago. And he is one of the longest guys on the PGA Tour. One of his best finishes has come at Torrey Pines in his career as well. So I think Vegas, again, 290 to 1 in the outright market makes a lot of sense if you're going to put your chips into one of the long ball strikers.
Yeah, I definitely think that you are correct. I also think another important thing to mention is this is going to be a difficult golf course, going to be a lot of bogeys, going to be a lot of trouble. Keep your live betting windows open. Might be sitting there on Sunday with, Brooks is up by 4 shots and then all of a sudden he makes a 9. So definitely stay tuned to the FanDuel Sportsbook there. We're going to go ahead and run into break here real quick on Fantasy Sports Today. See you guys in a few minutes on the other side of our break.
SportsGrid.com. Betting insights and entertainment at your fingertips 24/7 as our team covers the most important topics in sports wagering. Real-time odds, predictive betting models, expert picks, and more. Want the edge? Then get on the grid. SportsGrid.com.
Let's go shop small. Let's go into town and lose track of time. Let's go grab a bite with double everything. Let's try getting dressed up again. To to see all the familiar faces.
Hey, how's it going?
Let's go pick up our chat where we left it. Because there's nothing like shopping small. Let's go now. Then let's go again. Let's go shop small with Amex.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Fantasy Sports Today here on Sports Grid TV. I'm Davis Maddock, joined by my buddy, Pat Kerrane, and we are just kind of continuing our preview of the 2021 NFL season through a fantasy football lens, just going through all of the teams, diving deep. And, I don't really think there is an argument against this statement. The Seattle Seahawks are the weirdest team in the NFL. They have an all-pro quarterback who has never received an MVP vote. They won a Super Bowl, with him as this amazing passing quarterback, scrambling, making things happen. And yet every time they get too successful passing the ball, they go into a complete shell and try and play, 1960s wishbone style football. But also they choose to invest a lot in the running back position. But this offseason, they didn't. They are just rolling into the season with Chris Carson, Rashad Penny, who they declined the fifth-year option on. So their backup running back they don't even want on the team. And then they have these other guys they hate, Travis Homer and DJ Dallas, who they signed Bo Scarborough off the street last season and they were playing Bo Scarborough. And then Bo Scarborough got, I believe, an Achilles injury on the second carry of a game. So Pat, they're the weirdest team in the NFL, clearly.
They are. But I'm actually kind of interested in them for this year because I feel like the narrative on what happened is a little bit gone too far. Yes, Pete Carroll was mad they passed too much. He hated it. He wants to go back to establishing it. He got rid of his offensive coordinator. He brought in a new offensive coordinator specifically with the idea, let's establish it. That's true. But the guy they got rid of was Brian Schottenheimer. And Brian Schottenheimer, offensive coordinator for 12 seasons. He's had long stints with the Jets, the Rams, and the Seahawks. His most productive passing game was with the 2019 Seahawks, which finished 14th in passing yards. That's the best he's ever done in 12 years. So his guy is not like a passing game guru. He had the 2018 Seahawks where Russell Wilson finished third in adjusted yards per attempt, seventh in adjusted net yards per attempt, 11th in QBR, and the team finished 27th in passing yards. I am not bummed out that Brian Schottenheimer is no longer the offensive coordinator for this team. And the guy they're bringing in is Shane Waldron. And Waldron comes from the McVay offense. Yep. And he was their passing game coordinator. This guy he coached tight ends, he's coached wide receivers, he's coached quarterbacks, and he's the passing game coordinator from the Rams. I am not that worried about how he views offense. May he run a little bit more than we'd like, similar to McVay at times, similar to Kyle Shanahan at times, similar to Arthur Smith at times. Yeah, he might run a bit more, but I think he's going to be creative, and this is going to be a modern offense. They're already talking in Seattle about how complex the offense is. They also talked about how predictable the offense was to close the season last year, and you actually saw Russell Wilson struggling because the defense knew exactly what they were going to be running on every play. They're going to be unpredictable. They're going to be making their passes look like their runs. They might even start using some RPO with Russell Wilson. I mean, how amazing would that be? So
imagine.
Yeah. So a modern offense with Russell Wilson and these wide receivers is exciting. The fact that it might be a little bit tilted to the run, I will make that trade every time.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that probably the narrative has gone a little bit too far with the 1980s style football. Now, to be clear, the Seahawks did definitely go into a complete shell in the second half of the season last year. If you go look at their game logs, their passing attempts after the Week 9 loss to the Buffalo Bills, 28, 31, 32, 27, 32. Like they really went into a shell. And Russ still played great. Their playoff game against the Los Angeles Rams, I mean, it was not a good football game to watch. And there is this narrative out there that Russell Wilson is best used this way, that like there's something that gets exposed about Russell Wilson when you ask him to drop back 45 times in a game. I don't buy this at all. Like it just sounds like total football guy, like made up nonsense. But it does seem like Pete Carroll maybe believes that a little bit. He also believes this magic number nonsense, that this is a Bill Walsh thing from back in the day, that what's the number? 45 completed passes plus run attempts. If you get to that number, you stand like a great chance of winning the game. 45 might not be the number, but a quick Google search will yield this for you, because Pete Carroll has talked about it a ton, and it is a result of the old Bill Walsh West Coast offense stuff. And maybe it's even true that back in the day, offense was so non-sophisticated and teams really were just trying to like line up man on man and beat you, that used to be something that would work. But in today's NFL, I don't really buy it.
No, I don't buy that stuff at all. And Pete Carroll is Pete Carroll. Like, there's none of my argument is about like Pete Carroll somehow seeing the light. He's not going to see the light. But this could end up being kind of a Kellen Moore, Mike McCarthy situation where, we're not that excited about the head coach, and we don't have to put our faith in the head coach. It's just that he doesn't run the offense, and there's a guy running the offense who might be doing it very intelligently. And if that is using a lot of play action, if that's, running in kind of clear run situations to earn some goodwill with Carroll, cool, But if you're also using Dwayne Eskridge in interesting ways, similar to how they use Robert Woods, if you're able to do more with DK Metcalf than just the same handful of routes that the defense knows is coming and can double team him on, that could open up things for the entire offense. So this is an offense with an MVP caliber quarterback and great weapons. A smart offensive coordinator can do a lot with this offense. And Chris Carson is a capable running back. So if they have to slam him into the, they have to kind of pound it just to keep Pete Carroll off his back, it won't be a disaster when they do that. So, yeah, I'm actually pretty excited. Like, imagine if Arthur Smith had been hired here. I think that's kind of the upside case of like, this guy is bringing in a modern, sophisticated style of offense to this team that, they've been running too much. But that's not the main problem. The main problem is that this is an outdated style of offense that they were running. I mean, this offense coordinator had served under Rex Ryan, Eric Mangini, Rex Ryan, and Jeff Fisher. That's the guys that the previous offense coordinator, and then Pete Carroll, had been working under. Now we've got a guy who's been working under Sean McVay. So I think that could make a huge difference in terms of the approach.
So I also think there's a pretty good argument that this is the most talented group of players that Russell Wilson has ever played with. If you look at his previous best season, it was 2017. In that season, Russell Wilson threw 34 touchdown passes, 11 interceptions, about 4,000 yards in 16 games. That was the Doug Baldwin, Jimmy Graham, Paul Richardson era. I think you could make the case that, and Tyler Lockett was on that team, but he was a rookie. I think you could make the case that this form of Tyler Lockett is better than certainly Paul Richardson was back then. Certainly DK Metcalf is DK Metcalf is the best player that Russell Wilson has played with, going back to his time in college. Post-peak 32-year-old Jimmy Graham versus peak athletic age Gerald Everett, I think you'd say that's at least close. I mean, Jimmy Graham that season averaged 5.4 yards per target. So it's unclear how much he was bringing to the table. And look, no one knows who Dwayne Eskridge is because of the competition he played against in the MAC, the MAC conference. Yeah. But he looked amazing on film there. And so maybe he is really good. And they clearly spent the draft capital on him. maybe Dwayne Eskridge is finally the answer, because they've really never had a good 3 wide receiver rotation the entire time Russell Wilson has been in Seattle.
Yeah, Eskridge is fast. He's really good on special teams. He's old. He's probably not ultimately going to have a high ceiling in the NFL. I don't think he'll ever develop into like a number 1 option. But I think he's probably be more than capable of playing a David Moore type of role and being a little bit more dynamic. They're going to be able to get the ball in his hands, use him, on sweeps, use him near the line of scrimmage, and also use him to keep the defense honest on deep shots. So, he's going to be a very classic number 3 wide receiver. I think he's going to be more than capable in that role.
Yeah. So real quick here, I just wanted to ask you, who sees the second most targets on the Las Vegas Raiders, right? We all kind of have Waller penciled in there for the most, but are you a Ruggs guy? Are you an Edwards guy? Do they do this thing with Hunter Renfrow where he just eats up targets in the slot? I mean, I think that is something that could happen. And are you bullish on any of these guys for fantasy?
It's probably Hunter Renfrow is the answer, but I think the way to bet it is to say it's going to be Henry Ruggs. Yeah. Because, Ruggs came in, he's got all the athleticism we want. He comes into the league super young, early declared, not productive, but we're making all these excuses for the other Alabama wide receivers in terms of their production. So I think you also have to give a little bit of that to Ruggs, where he couldn't be a huge contributor to his offense with those guys next to him. And he is extraordinarily fast and has decent size to be, a number 1 wide receiver with that type of speed. So that's the upside play. And the fact that people are out on him after a pretty mediocre rookie season, when the whole idea was that he was a young project, it's too early to give up on this guy. He could be a big time second year breakout in the mold of a DJ Shark who didn't show much in his rookie year. And then he comes in with more opportunity. I mean, there's really no one here that's going to fight this guy for targets. John Brown, I just don't think there's that many guys. So I think that's the clear way to play this to the upside.
Yeah, I'm with you on Henry Ruggs. Gonna keep gobbling him up this offseason. Everyone stay tuned to Fantasy Sports Today and Sports Grid TV. We are gonna run into break real quick. See you guys in a few seconds.
SportsGrid.com. Betting insights and entertainment at your fingertips 24/7 as our team covers the most important topics in sports wagering. Real-time odds, predictive betting models, expert picks, and more. Want the edge? Then get on the grid. SportsGrid.com.
Let's go shop small. Let's go into town and lose track of time. Let's go grab a bite with double everything. Let's try getting dressed up again to see all the familiar faces.
Hey, how's it going?
Let's go pick up our chat where we left it. Because there's nothing like shopping small. Let's go now. Then let's go again. Let's go shop small with Amex.
Welcome back to Fantasy Sports Today here on Sports Grid. We got fantasy or reality coming up. Just a quick note again from the NBA. Not all bad news today, apparently. Jalen Rose, former NBA player who now works for ESPN, mentioned earlier on social media that Chris Paul was vaccinated, and simply put, his COVID issue is a one-game scenario, whatever that means. But regardless of that, the thought process, Davis, that Paul will be out for a series, at least for the time being, and you would assume that Jalen Rose is not going to put something out there like this. This is not true. Maybe. I mean, I don't think so. That would mean that the panic for Phoenix does not seem to be extreme, at least from what is being said here. But we'll keep an eye on it.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely depends. I would imagine Jalen Rose probably knows Chris Paul. Like, I would imagine
Right.
that they probably are friendly, and so he got past this from someone who might know. I would imagine probably what's going to happen is the Suns are going to be rooting for a 7-game series between the
Yes.
Jazz and the Clippers somehow. Yeah, because if that series goes on for another 3 games, that's a week for Chris Paul to get his negative tests in, do his contact tracing. So maybe he misses game 1 of the Western Conference Finals instead of missing games 1 and 2 or whatever it may be. So I think that's probably what the Phoenix Suns are hoping is going to end up happening.
All right. Well, we'll see what ends up happening there with Chris Paul and the Suns. We got a lot of other things that we got to dive into here on the show. Our producer, Brett Levy, has made the trek to our Sports Grid studios. He is shaved. He combed his hair. He's got a nice shirt on. And he's got fantasy or reality for us. Brett, what do we got?
Yeah, I did all those things to impress my boss. I didn't want him to think I've just been in my pajamas all these days. But Tyler Glasnow raised some eyebrows with his comments last night, Craig and Davis. He took some passionate pleas at the MLB, basically saying he got hurt because he's been doing things a certain way and had to immediately stop and change what he was doing for a few weeks. So we have to ask the question. Davis, we can start with you for this one. Tyler Glasnow got hurt because of the MLB rule change. Is this a fantasy or reality?
So I'm definitely going to need Craig to provide some color on this because, just like Craig is going to go to me for an NBA coaching change, I'm definitely going to go to Craig with anything of, MLB insiders because Craig is going to know better than me. My guess or my summary of the situation would be, is this Glasnow basically admitting that he was cheating? Is this Glasnow admitting I went through my preparations this entire season knowing that I was going to be using a substance, whether it be spider tack, whether it be, whatever. I mean, who knows what these guys are actually using to generate these crazy spin rates. But this is basically him saying, I was using a foreign substance that caused my arm mechanics to be used a certain way. In my first start, without those foreign substances, I had to change my arm mechanics to try and generate the same amount of spin rate that caused my delivery to get out of whack. My delivery getting out of whack while throwing maximum effort caused me to get injured. To me, this sounds like, I guess, Tyler, maybe you shouldn't have been cheating in the first place. Maybe there should have been better dialogue between the MLBPA and the MLB if they really thought this was going to happen. But to answer the actual question, it does sound like a reality that he got hurt because of the rule change, but I don't think he's blameless in this injury, basically, is kind of what I think, Craig.
Yeah, so he says, so Tyler Glasnow says that he never used spider tack. Simply put, he's saying it was suntan lotion and rosin. This is what he's saying. And that what happened was the depth of his pitches was not the same because he did not have the same grip, so he was forced to strangle the baseball, essentially, hold it a lot tighter, which caused more tension on his arm. And the other part of this, too, that needs to be said, and I know that you're a big fan of Brandon McCarthy. Brandon McCarthy is basically calling foul here, saying that this is nonsense. Essentially, that's what he's saying because of two things. First of all, Glasnow admitted to going what he called was cold turkey, which is basically just going out there in one game and completely changing what he's always done, which obviously turned out to be a mistake. And then secondly, some of the things that you're talking about, seemingly that there could be a better way that he could have gone about this. He knew it was coming, and there should have been some sort of preparation for this and not just doing it all at once. So I am going to say fantasy, unfortunately, for Tyler Glasnow. I'm going to say that this injury, I don't know the answer to it one way or the other, but I got to call foul here a little bit because if another Major League Baseball pitcher at a very high level like McCarthy is basically saying, nah, like you saw the train coming, you had to know that this was a possibility, you needed to slow it down, work yourself off, wean yourself off, as opposed to doing what you described. What happened was Glasnow explained this, David, so eloquently and so thoroughly that it seems as though he's right just from listening to what he's saying. But again, when you have other people around the league, and I've speak to people who are saying, well, I'm not so sure, I got to at least call fantasy on this, although I do feel horrible for the guy, no doubt. He's one of the best pitchers in baseball. So I do feel terrible that he could potentially miss the rest of the season. So, but fantasy for me, Brett.
All right, Craig. Our next one, we're going to go to the football field, and we're going to talk about Derek Carr because he made some interesting comments yesterday saying that if the Oakland Raiders were to trade him, he'd probably just retire and quit. So we've got to ask, and Craig, we can start with you. Derek Carr would retire if the Raiders traded him. Is this a fantasy or reality?
Okay, so David Carr has, or Derek Carr, did I say David? Derek Carr has made a lot of money, a lot of guaranteed money to where he could comfortably retire and never have to play again. Andrew Luck did the same exact thing and decided not to play and passed over, I don't know, hundreds of millions of dollars or something close to it. Hypothetically speaking, this could happen, and he could decide to do that. But I am going 2 for 2 here on calling fantasy on your professional athlete because cooler heads prevail, and the agent is very overwhelming in knowing that he's about to lose his money, and the agency doesn't ever want to have that happen. They sit down with the player, they talk it over. The Andrew Luck conversation is one that is a 1 in a million type deal. For every 100 players who consider doing this, there's usually one that actually follows through with it. There is no way he is going to retire. He'll be spoken to if he's traded by his new organization, whether it's the Packers or someone else. He'll sit down with the coach. The organization will make him feel real good. They'll take him out to a nice dinner, him and his wife, take care of his kids, give him a suite in the stadium, and he will play for another team. Fantasy, 100% for me on Carr.
Yeah, I mean, this is clearly a fantasy, and I feel like this is probably him signaling to other teams, like, don't trade for me. I don't want to be traded. I think Derek Carr probably has gotten pretty used to and pretty comfortable with his name being in trade rumors. Like, ever since they brought Gruden in, it's been rumored, they like Mariota. Oh, they're going to trade for Aaron Rodgers. Oh, they're going to trade for X, Y, and Z. Oh, Tom Brady's going to go to the Raiders. Like, remember, that was a rumor for about 6 minutes last offseason. I kind of feel bad for Derek Carr because what other line of work could you be top 0.000000001%, so elite, so much better than every other human being on earth, and every Raiders fan hates him, every NFL fan thinks he sucks, and he goes out, he throws for 4,000 yards, he throws for 28 touchdowns, he wins 8 games, pretty much just does his job, and everyone thinks he sucks. Like, I feel in a way for Derek Carr, though I'm sure he's able to wipe his tears with his money at the end of the day.
Yeah, he got a huge contract extension, so you don't have to wipe any tears for that. Yeah, I'm fantasy, rare fan, Brett, a fantasy, double fantasy here to start fantasy or reality. I hope I have a reality to end this one.
I hope so too, Craig, because it would make a lot of sense if you have a reality for this one. Legos has announced a collaboration with Adidas to make an Adidas Superstar Lego set, Craig. And we have to ask the question, we'll start with you because we know you have kids. You currently have at least one Lego piece in your house. Craig, is this a fantasy or reality?
So this is a reality, but I also want to say this. My daughter is now going to be 15, and my son is going to be 9. So they have grown completely out of Lego stage. I would also add that while I am pretty on top of things in my house, there's definitely a chance that we've given them all away. There is that chance, because if you said to me fantasy or reality, Craig, you have 2 minutes starting right now to go grab a Lego piece and bring it to the show. I couldn't do it. I would not know where to look. I'm not sure where they are. I'm going to say reality by default here because it's a possibility that I do have a Lego somewhere. In Orlando, we did go to the Lego place. They built them. They put the little things together. But my kids are growing out of it, so it's kind of sad. I think we've moved past it. But that Adidas shoe looked really cool. I thought, even if Davis says fantasy, I think that he would acknowledge that the But the Lego Adidas sneaker looked pretty sweet. But I gotta say reality. I'm sure that I could find one in my house.
Yeah, I mean, this is a clear reality for me, and I'm maybe a little bit more of a Lego guy than you, because I even know in my house where the Legos are. And keep in mind, I am a 28-year-old man without children, so that would lead you to believe that I have purchased Legos for my own edification, which is true. I have some Star Wars Legos. I have one from the OG movie, Luke in the Speed Racer, and this is so wild. Do you know how much a Lego Death Star costs, Craig? Give me a guess. What do you think a Lego Death Star costs?
Fully built already, or you have to build it yourself?
You have to build it yourself.
You got to build it yourself. $50?
$500 for the unassembled Lego Death Star. And I want one bad, but I'm like, look, I can spend my money frivolously on a lot of things, and I'm pretty comfortable doing it. I can't spend $500 on a Lego Death Star. I just can't quite get there. So maybe if France wins the European Championship and I cash those tickets, maybe that's what I'll treat myself with. But yeah, I do have Legos in my house. That's a reality. And there will probably be more eventually.
All right. Brett, any Legos for you before we let you go? Any Legos in your house, Brett?
No Legos for me. I guess I'm missing the boat here. I have no Legos in my house.
All right. We'll work on those for you. Maybe as part of your wedding, you put that on the registry. Get yourself a nice little Lego honeymoon, Brett. Maybe not. All right. On that note, we got to take a quick time out here on Sports Grid. We'll come back. We got the Sports Grid 60. We'll be right back here on tomorrow's show. I will be off on Friday, taking just a day off Friday. So, of course, George Kurtz will be in the house along with Davis. But, of course, Jim Sanis will still be with us. All the normal things that we do here on the show. And, of course, we'll be right back here tomorrow at noon Eastern to talk about the NBA games. We've got 2 games to recap tomorrow there. Major League Baseball games coming for you as well. We'll help you win a little DFS on the side, no doubt about that. More to come here on Fantasy Sports Today. Sports Grid 60 is next. Later today, right here on Sports Grid, our good friend Scott Farrell going to take over the airwaves going coast to coast, 4 o'clock Eastern. We'll be right back. Stay on the grid. Don't go away.
SportsGrid.com. Betting insights and entertainment at your fingertips 24/7 as our team covers the most important topics in sports wagering. Real-time odds, predictive betting models, expert picks, and more. Want the edge? Then get on the grid. SportsGrid.com.
Let's go shop small. Let's go into town and lose track of time. Let's go grab a bite with double everything. Let's try getting dressed up again. To see all the familiar faces.
Hey, how's it going?
Let's go pick up our chat where we left it. Because there's nothing like shopping small. Let's go now. Then let's go again. Let's go shop small with Amex.
All right, welcome back. Fantasy Sports Today here on Sports Grid and SportsGrid.com. We got the Sports Grid 60 here coming up as Davis and I are getting ready to check out for today. But don't forget, right here tomorrow at noon, we'll be right back with you. But Davis will take us home with the Sports Grid 60. Davis, what's on your mind as we wrap our show here on this Wednesday?
Well, you already know what's on my mind. I've been watching these soccer matches while we've been on air. We had a good one this morning, and we just had a great game wrap up between Turkey and Wales. But I'm going to do something forward-looking, and I'm going to see if I can maybe even get my hooks in you to get you to pay attention to a game tomorrow. Belgium is the best team in the world by FIFA's world rankings, and they are getting plus money tomorrow against Denmark, the team that Christian Eriksen was on. He collapsed and is in the hospital in a stable condition. But, I know that's an emotional spot, but Eriksen pretty clearly Denmark's best player. You hate to bet against the feel-good story, but I'm giving it out. Belgium at plus money on the FanDuel Sportsbook against Denmark tomorrow. I will be betting that, and I think that is a pretty juicy line for the folks.
All right, so maybe that is a good reason to check out tomorrow. So, with the summer coming up, it's really interesting when you have a family and you have kids. It's only natural to take time off and go on vacation, but it has been unnatural to actually book those trips over the last, almost 2 years. And so in general, my family and I always go on some sort of vacation, but it's been a long time since we've even considered it. So we booked our first vacation in almost 2 years, coming up in July. And I saw how much it's going to cost. And of course, I'm going to go and I'm going to pay for it. But I got to tell you, it stings a little bit. Like I have not thought about spending thousands of dollars on a vacation in almost 2 years. And then all of a sudden, when you see the sticker, it's like, wow, this is something that I just haven't done in a while. And it is part of life. So I would ask all of you to do the same. If you're planning on taking a vacation, understand that, yes, it is part of life. It is part of making other people happy as well as yourself. And sometimes let the sticker shock go and do things that you used to do, which I am planning on doing this summer. Thanks again to our intern, Spencer, for Brett, Danny, and Ryan, and James at LTN. My co-host, Davis Maddock. I'm Craig Mish. We'll see you tomorrow at noon. Have a great day, everybody.